This planet once had more water than Earth, oceans deeper than anything we have ever seen. And then, in a cosmic instant, it drowned. In reverse. For decades, we called Mars a dead world, a frozen desert, a failure. But Mars is not dead. It is a corpse, and corpses tell stories. Look at Mars, that familiar rust-colored disk hanging in our night sky. We think we know it. The red planet, the dead planet, the boring neighbor. We sent robots to crawl across its surface. We took thousands of photographs. We mapped every crater, every canyon, every grain of sand. And everywhere we looked, we saw the same thing. Dust, rock, silence. A world that seemed to have been dead since the beginning of time. But we were wrong. Mars was not born dead. Mars was murdered. And the killer left evidence everywhere. In 2004, the Opportunity rover landed in a small crater called Eagle. Within days, it found something that changed everything. Tiny spheres of hematite scattered across the ground. Scientists called them blueberries. They only form one way, in water. Not a little moisture, not ancient ice, liquid water, flowing, pooling, sitting for millions of years. But that was just the first clue. Look at the northern hemisphere of Mars from orbit. Notice something strange? It is flat, unnaturally flat, smoother than any terrain should be. Geologists recognized this pattern immediately. It is the signature of an ancient seabed. Mars had an ocean, not a small lake, not a modest sea. An ocean covering the entire northern third of the planet, deeper than the Mediterranean, possibly deeper than the Atlantic. But it gets worse. The Curiosity rover found rounded pebbles, rocks tumbled smooth by flowing streams, river rocks. On Mars, it found clay minerals that only form when water sits in one place for thousands of years. Patient water, calm water. It found sulfate deposits, the chemical fingerprint of evaporating seas. Mars was not just wet. Mars was a water world. Current estimates suggest Mars once held enough water to cover its entire surface in an ocean 300 meters deep. Some models go further. They suggest Mars may have had more water relative to its size than Earth does today. Imagine that, a blue Mars, a Mars with coastlines and tides, a Mars where rain fell from thick clouds, a Mars where life could have thrived. But something happened, something catastrophic. And it happened fast. To understand what killed Mars, you need to understand what kept it alive. The answer is invisible, a magnetic field. Earth has one, a giant invisible shield generated by our spinning molten core. It wraps around our planet like armor. This shield does something crucial. It deflects the solar wind, a constant stream of charged particles blasting out from the sun at 1,000,000 miles per hour. Without this shield, the solar wind would strip away our atmosphere, molecule by molecule, year by year, until nothing remained. 4 billion years ago, Mars had a shield too, a magnetic field generated by its own churning core. And under that protection, oceans flourished. But Mars made a fatal mistake. It was too small. Small planets cool faster than large ones, and as Mars cooled, its core began to slow down. The dynamo that generated its magnetic field sputtered and died. The shield collapsed. What happened next was not dramatic. It was worse. It was slow. The solar wind, no longer deflected, began to graze the upper atmosphere. Each particle collision knocked a few molecules into space. Day after day, year after year, century after century. The atmosphere bled into the void. NASA's MAVEN spacecraft measured this process. It is still happening today. Mars loses about 100 grams of atmosphere every second. That sounds small, but over 4 billion years, it adds up. Mars lost almost its entire atmosphere, and with it, everything else. Here is the nightmare. As atmospheric pressure dropped, something terrible happened to the water. It could no longer exist as liquid. You see, water needs pressure to stay liquid. Below a certain threshold, it can only exist as ice or vapor, nothing in between. Mars crossed that threshold, and its oceans began to boil. Not because they were hot, because there was no longer enough air pressure to hold them together. The water molecules ripped themselves apart and flew into the sky. Then the solar wind grabbed them and flung them into space. Mars did not dry out. Mars evaporated. Its oceans did not drain. They escaped. Imagine standing on a Martian beach 4 billion years ago, watching the sea rise into the sky, watching it disappear into the stars. This is what scientists call atmospheric escape, but that name is too clean. What happened to Mars was a drowning in reverse. The water did not rise to cover the planet. The planet sank below the water. The water fled upward. Mars drowned in emptiness. It choked on vacuum. And it happened everywhere at once. Every ocean, every lake, every river, boiling away in slow motion over millions of years. The surface temperature plummeted. What water remained froze. The red dust settled over everything like a burial shroud. Mars became what we see today, a rust-colored tomb, a planet-sized crime scene. But here is what makes it truly horrifying. The murder is not over. In 2018, the European Space Agency made an announcement that sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Using radar instruments on the Mars Express orbiter, they detected something buried beneath the South Polar ice cap. A lake. A liquid lake. 20 kilometers wide, hidden under 1.5 kilometers of ice. But wait, you just said liquid water cannot exist on Mars. The pressure is too low. That is true, on the surface. But deep underground, the weight of the ice creates pressure. And something else helps. Salt. Heavily salted water can remain liquid at temperatures far below zero. Brines. The same chemistry that keeps roads from freezing in winter. Mars may have buried oceans of brine. Cold, dark, pressurized, hiding beneath the frozen surface. More radar studies followed. They found hints of more subsurface lakes, a whole network of them, possibly connected. Mars did not lose all its water. It buried some of it, deep underground, safe from the solar wind, safe from evaporation. And this changes everything, because where there is liquid water, there can be life. Not on the surface. The surface is a freezer drenched in radiation. Nothing could survive there for long. But underground, protected by kilometers of rock and ice, in stable liquid water that has existed for billions of years. That is a different story. We have found life in stranger places on Earth, in boiling hot springs, in Antarctic ice, in caves sealed off from sunlight for millions of years. If life ever arose on Mars, during those warm, wet, early years, it may not have died with the oceans. It may have retreated, followed the water down, adapted to the darkness. There could be Martians, right now, alive, waiting in the dark beneath the rust. We just have not dug deep enough to find them. This is the tragedy of Mars. It is not a dead world, it is a dying one. Still bleeding atmosphere into space, still losing the last traces of its former glory. When we look at Mars, we are not looking at a failure. We are looking at a warning. Because Earth is not immune to this fate. Our magnetic field protects us, but magnetic fields can weaken. Cores can cool. It will not happen tomorrow. It will not happen in a million years. But eventually, in the deep future, Earth will face the same slow suffocation. We are looking at our own ghost. But there is something else, something almost hopeful. Almost. Mars is reachable. In our lifetime, humans will walk on that red dust. We will drill into that frozen ground, and we might find something. a fossil, a microbe, a trace of chemistry that could only come from life. If we do, it will be the most important discovery in human history. Proof that we are not alone. Proof that life is not a miracle. It is inevitable. And we will have found it in a graveyard, in the corpse of a drowned world. Mars is not the dead red planet we thought we knew. It is a memorial, a 4-billion-year-old crime scene preserved in rust and ice. Its canyons are dry riverbeds. Its plains are ancient seabeds. Its poles hide frozen memories of a world that once had rain. We call it the red planet, but we should call it what it is: the drowned planet, a world that lost its oceans to the stars. But Mars is not the strangest world out there. Far beyond, at the edge of the solar system, there is something else. A planet so distant it takes 165 years to orbit the Sun. A world of supersonic winds and diamond rain. A place so cold that physics breaks down. Neptune, the forgotten giant. The lonely guardian of the abyss. What secrets does it hide? What nightmares lurk in its blue depths? That is a story for next time. What do you think happened to Mars? Could life still be hiding in those buried lakes? Tell me in the comments. Keep looking up and stay curious.